the written contract for business manager and for the authorization of the president to sign the contract on behalf of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Al?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes?
Kathleen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, that takes care of the technical and legal aspects of hiring a new business manager. All right, now, Dr. Perry.
Sure. We have Dr. Stuman, who we did the demographic study for the district so that we could look out 10 years and kind of get an understanding of what we might be looking at with regards to enrollments. And Dr. Stuman has a track history of being very accurate. And Dr. Stuman is a demographer at Carnegie Mellon University and has worked for a lot of school districts in the state over the years. So appreciate him driving this evening the 4 hours east.
I don't know the hours. It was, you gotta pay attention, I can tell you that.
You do have to pay attention, and thanks for doing that. All right, we're gonna turn it over to you if you want to come up and.
Okay.
Hey, welcome, Dr. Stuman.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. Just to give you some background, the board did have your study beforehand and had an opportunity to read it, look over it. So if you would just tonight give us the main highlights of your study.
All right, I can try. I mean, I can give you the highlights in rapid order, as a matter of fact, but at least partially, I'd like for you to feel free to ask any questions on any part of it, so that if it's not only the conclusions but the logic internally that I prefer that boards sort of understand that logic and sort of what was going on. So let me try to frame the overall study to start with. It in effect has 3 parts. In-depth analysis by looking at births, which that table gives you about 28 years of births. Then we go into the age of mother and their births, and there's a reason for that. And we can then spot where the drop in the births occurred. They drop like a rock between 90, 94, 95, 99. And you may think that's a long time ago, but it turns out those drops are related to the current drops. I'll try to make that clear. So we've got births to start with. We've got the age structure, or what I prefer to call population waves, and that's the boomers, which some of you might be boomers, I doubt it, but a few of you might be. Then there's the baby bust cohort with its leading edge. And they're called Generation X, I believe, by some people. And then there's the echo boom, which is, if you think of waves, here's the here's the baby boom, and then here's the baby bust, and here's the echo. Now that's pertinent because white, non-Hispanic women in the United States, including here, have had 1.7 to 1.9 children for the last 45 years. So it's not a variable sort of thing, at least not varying very much. That then means that the number of births you're going to get here is related to 2 main items. One is delayed childbearing, which just puts it off. And the second is the number of women to have births in age-specific groups. 20, 24, 25, 29, 30, 34, 35, 39. Those are the key ones. So that's the third part, the population was. That's the second part, excuse me, the waves. They're related to the births. The third then is net migration at 3 different levels. One is preschoolers. We've got a good shot at trying to specify preschool and migrants coming in. One is the students. I've developed a way to deduce the student migration from enrollments and grade distributions, and the in or out migration of women in the reproductive ages. That's pertinent because if you lose the baby, the echo boomers, then there's not much chance that births will turn around. If you have the echo boomers, then there's a fairly good chance that births will turn from negative to positive and continue on that trajectory for a while. So that's why it's pertinent. I then look at the alternative schools, the enrollment changes, and the housing. There's a lot of housing going into this area and expected to come in the next 10 to 20 years if you include Amblebrook. But the student housing ratios are extremely low. So you're not going to get much bang for your buck on those cases. All the links are in the 0.08, 06 to 09 range. That is, for 100 housing units put in brand new, you get 6 or 7 kids. Max 9. And that's data from your district, so this is not something I made up or pulled in. We looked at the houses that we know have been built, and we looked at the number of kids in that and their distribution over the grade structure. Then there's a set of homes that generated a 0.38 to 0.41, let's just call it 40. So for 100 homes, you get 40 kids, new kids coming into school over the time of the build out. And then lastly, you got Misty Ridge, which was not trivial, with a student housing ratio of 72. And that's more in line with what we used to get with single family homes. And I don't mean it as criticism that the ones that are best below that in terms of numbers is in the 40 range, because I'm seeing that in other places as developers hit the market, and the market has to do with mixed housing. So you get some single families, some duplexes, townhomes, and some patio homes. I've just finished a study where the patio homes have no kids. That's what you expect, because they're older people normally moving into single one-story homes, connected sort of linearly. So anyway, that's the overview. That gives the perception, allows some right to give insight to what's going on in terms of what are the most likely and least likely scenarios. I run 5 of them. 4 of them deal with, actually ran 6. 4 deal with adjustments in births, key to the findings in section 1. 1 deals with housing, key to the findings in the housing set. And 1 tries to lay out the tech prep situation if it were to go independent. I thought you might want to look into that, but that's sort of secondary. So that's the overview. The results, the summary results are, I believe, on page 47. I guess not. In your 42 to 46. There's basically 10 findings, so I'll hit those straight away. Finding number 1, the shifts in births of the last 2.5 decades has oscillated from sharp drops to increases to even a plateau once, and now back to decreases that are dampening down in the last decade and a half. The overall decrease is now 60 fewer births a year, which is, I guess, 2 full classrooms, maybe 3. So on page 42, you see the actual numbers if you care to look. But basically, they dropped from almost 1,500 in the early period to 1,100 currently over a 5-year period. Or from 291 close to 300 to 230 today. Number two, the current level of births is 230. Delayed childbearing is continued, about 13%, increasing into women past 30 or 30 and above, and 13% less in anybody less than 30. So what we're seeing, which makes sense actually, is a young woman going on to school, getting an education, as opposed to starting a family in most cases, not all. Third, I mentioned the distinct fertility rates in the United States. The most unique fertility rates in the whole last century was in 1957, I believe it is. Let's see if we can, can you go to table, probably 3, table 3. It's the one with shading. Yeah. Okay, so right here, I don't know if you can see it or you refer to your. The biggest number is right here in 1957 at 3.8. The average number of children a woman would have, and from 45 to 65, if you will, was 3.8 children. And that's the baby boom. That's 20 years. It's high numbers at the beginning. It increased, kept increasing, and then it tailed down a little bit. But even in the last, it was over 3. 64, it was 319. Finally, it drops to 291. I put that one in the bust, actually. Here's the baby bust in the 70s. And the number is 1.74. So less than half the number of children. Right? And then we get, after that, it starts climbing up to 2. And finally is settling down to 1.9. You go to table 4, please.
For clarity's sake, can you explain to us why we focus on white, non-Hispanic women?
Why white, non-Hispanic? Because that's what most of the women in this township are.
Thank you.
I looked it up, I think it's 90, I forget the exact number, it's in the text, but I
No,
believe it's.
you're correct. I just wanted clarity for the sake of anyone in the audience.
Right,
Thank you.
well, the reason it's important to separate it, we didn't catch it in time. You can see it starts right here. In 1972, it's 1.9. Never has gone over that for the next 45 years. Never has, not 1 year. Has gone down a bit, there's a few 1/8s and 1/7s, there's a few 1/7s. That's an extremely low variance, or what I call a tick or two. Ticks up, ticks down, but never moved outside that range. Now, we only started calculating Hispanics, identifying them in 1990, as there were enough of them to make it a real mistake not to try to separate it out occasionally. And so, the Hispanic birth rate was 3.0. It is now 2.1, and possibly even less than that. Great Recession basically cooked it. You can see it's oscillating about 2.8, 2.9, and in 2009 it starts going down very, very sharply. But the white non-Hispanic is right here. And that's the one that's constant, relatively constant. So now we can, if we want to know what direction births are heading, we can look at what direction, how many women are in each age cohort, and how that ages through time. And that's probably in the next table. Yeah, so we'll do this very quickly if you don't mind. Here's the United States, here's the baby boom, here's the baby bust, light shade. Here's the echo, and in the United States, in Pennsylvania, in Adams County, and right here in River City, in Gettysburg Area School District, we find bigger numbers, substantially bigger numbers in the boom, massively lower numbers in the bust, and then increases in the echo. Across all three pieces. Right. I've yet to see any county, any place that is not the case. You can lose some echo boomers due to net out migration, and Gettysburg has. But the good news is not all. In 2015, at least two of the echo cohorts are larger than the baby bust. Let's go to the next one. Now, the importance of at least knowing these is that we know what these age cohorts, where they're going to be all the way to 2020, 2025. No doubt about it. You can't change your age. So we can tab it right there. So in 2015, which we just passed, there's one more echo, but I didn't put it in the table. So they are 20 in 2020, which is coming up. They are 20, 25, 30, and 35. They control the entire set of key reproductive age women. They're all echo booms. So we can look and try to see, okay, are they here or did they migrate out? Let's go to 7. This is your school district. Like we gave the bold stuff there, the shaded stuff there, that's the bust. If you take it on down to 2010, you can see the echo. And what we're going to do is contrast these for the most part. That one's going down, that one's up, that one's up. And if you compare it to these, those two are the keys. And 20 and 25. Now I've taken Gettysburg College out of here. Right? So you can't leave them in and say anything about the age structure because if you look at the text on page 17, I gave you a list of age-specific cohorts, and what you see in 90, 2000, 2010 is a huge jump in the 15 to 19, 20, 24 populations. That's Gettysburg College. All right, so how do you take them out? Well, Gettysburg College has been fairly constant in enrollment for the last 4 to 6 years. I think at around 600 class, so it's about 2,400 in that neighborhood. 54% of them are women. That's been constant. And so what we have to do is take the things we can observe, like 20 and 21 and 22, 3, 4. They're in the census, and then try to deduce what would have been in these key cohorts. And so if you look here, you don't see this huge bubble because I've removed it, analytically removed it. It's nothing on Gettysburg College, actually, plus for Gettysburg College. But those young women are not here to have children, they're here to get an education. So it makes sense to try to make sure they're not in our numbers in the sense of trying to figure out does the number of women affect the number of births. So we took those big numbers and whittled them down to something that was reasonably specific, and that's given in the text, I believe. Go to 8. This only applied to, I think, 3 of the townships because 3 of them weren't big enough to be in the census by age, 5-year age cohorts. But in 2010, 2015, all of them are there. Same thing holds up. You see these 2 cohorts are plus. This tells you the percentage plus. Okay, so let's roll. One more. 9 is my favorite table. Okay, so here we've got the age-specific births. And you want to know why births drop like a rock? When the baby boom marched into the 20s, 20, 25, births dropped by almost, 136 and 56, 180, 192, 200. That's that 200. Baby bust is totally responsible for the massive drop in births. We can follow them over time. Now here you get the tail end of the baby bust, positive, 2 here. This is an aberration. I don't know why. I just know that all the births are positive, including the baby bust. Prior to that, right after that, all the births are negative except one. I can't seem to find it, so we'll just say they're all negative. There's your 290, there's your 230. So as this cohort aged over time into the 30s, you've got continued drops, generally. Sometimes helped by the baby boomers as they moved out, they were positive. They negated a little bit of it. Okay, so let's see if we can move on. Ten should be net migration. I thought you might want to know this. We have 3 pieces of data for preschoolers. You can hook the censuses less than 5 in 2000, 2010, 2015 with the births the prior 5 years from the Department of Health. So if we compare those 2 numbers, we know here they're almost identical, so there is no migration. The births stayed here, they didn't leave the preschool families. In 2005 to 9, on the other hand, there was a slight decrease, about 52 kids left, minus 10. In the last period, virtually none again. So you're not getting, in effect, you're not getting preschoolers moving in here, which you may have known, but now we do know it with data. Okay, I'm not going to cover too much of the migration of students, but we'll at least touch on it. Let's go to 11. If you set up a counterfactual, if no student migrated in or out, let's just suppose that for a moment, then the enrollment change would be a function of the seniors who left, let's say in 2019, and the kindergartners who came in 2020, the following fall. All right? Okay, so we can deduce that. That's these 2, seniors and kindergartners. That's what I call the exit-entry exchange, or E3, just to be cute. Then we can look at the actual change. And when we subtract these 2, we get the net migration. That, in fact, is the net migration. It's a simple algebraic equation. And I lay that out in the text. What I want to show you here is in the last 5 years, E3 was negative 556. So if there was no migration in, we would be going down over 500, over 100 a year. On the other hand, there were 658 students who moved in, and so the enrollment increased by 100. You can add these up and you get the outcome. Prior time period, we had almost 500 negative E3s, and a net migration of 285, much less. So overall, in that period, enrollment went down about 200. Last 10 years, E3 is 1,000 students. This is directly related to births because kindergartens. If it's not preschoolers moving in, it's got to be kindergartens who were born here. So that links back to the births. On the other hand, migration came in at 943, so the entire thing dropped by 94 in the last 10 years. So it's actually pretty good, given the shifts in births. Okay, so I think we can go 1 to 12. A's at the, A, B, and C are at the elementary, middle, and high school. You can deduce it at every level, and the sum of all three equals the total. And this is a summary chart, so let's just go to, let's go on to 13, I want to move along. This is the retention ratios. These are fairly remarkable retention ratios. They're between, generally between 4 and 6, except for this, what I call the goofy one, 1.12, 1.276, and that's your tech prep. They're moving in from other schools at grade 10 to 11. And I've taken that out in scenario 6, by the way. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, the school should be growing because these are compounded. Fortunately, it dropped by 5% here in the birth to kindergarten. So you got births dropping, you got the birth to kindergarten ratio dropping, and those two things hurt a lot. This is, if you take it sequentially, K to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and so on, you just multiply these numbers. It's like compound interest. So now we can go to the next one. And this is what you get. At grade 1, the most recent one, you get 5% increase. That is, if you had 100 kids, you'd expect grade 1 to have 105. And by grade 9, it's 145. That's huge. Right? And this one I won't talk about because that's prep tech. Tech prep.
We know, Chair.
I get them reversed sometimes. Okay, so, and I went to the, 16 goes to the burst, all the way down to the burst, and takes the cumulative, or 15, we're not gonna deal with that. This is the enrollment changes. We just saw that it was 102 plus, then it was minus 196, then minus 194. So, basically, and this is how much it's changed by level. The average grade size has not changed very much. It's probably too good. Okay, let's roll on, we'll go to housing. Here's the housing permits. I meant to acknowledge people at the beginning of this presentation. I'm deeply indebted to Harlan Lawson and Darrell Crum at the Office of Planning, Adams County, and to Michelle Long and Cumberland Township, who was the one municipal staff who was able to give me at least 10 years of data, and anytime I called on her, would dig up what I needed, including the original Mystic Ridge formulation, which allowed us to sort of make it concrete about, okay, how many homes are out there, how many are actually senior, and when they originally applied, 100 of those homes were for elderly, senior citizens. And so we've got 39 left, and that's what was important to know. Basically what you've got is Cumberland being obviously the main leader here, averaged 42 per year for the last 5, then Franklin is not trivial at 8, Montjoy at 12, Travan at 8, and Freedom, Gettysburg, and Highland not very much. But overall, 75 a year, and that's what I think is important to try to remember. So they've been building homes for the last 4 years at about 75 new homes per year. My model of housing and housing impacts on student enrollment says if you get no increase beyond the baseline, I consider the 74 a baseline, let's call it 75. Then there's no additional direct impact because the retention ratios, remember, were 103, 104, 105. They've got embedded growth inside them. They are not survival rates. It can be over 1. When they're over 1, that means some extra people are coming in. So here's the Misty Ridge 39 extras. These are the type of homes, single-family residences, townhomes. This is how many were in the plan, this is how many have been built, this is how many are left. So there's 500 left. These over here are pretty iffy, I think. Some of them approved, as you can see, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So they will, should anything ever move, they're gonna have to come back in and get a new approval. You can't sit on it for a decade and not build. So those that were approved in the past but not developed and probably wouldn't count on those. Here's the big one, Emerald at 2,000. So that should be good for tax reasons, but it will not be good for increasing the number of students. This is a 55 plus housing plan. I mean, excuse me, there are a few 55 plusers who still have kids. I ran into one the other day. Nice gray beard, said he had a 14-year-old kid. I said, that's great. You know, he also had some that had left the nest, and more than that. Okay, so here's the key now. Oh, we ask, I don't care how many are in private schools or other schools, because I only care about what comes into Gettysburg School when you build a home. And we looked at the links, we looked at those, all different pieces. Cambridge Crossing, Cannon Ridge, Cumberland Village. This is phase one, that's important because there's now phase 2. And I only took the non-elderly part of phase 1. There's a older resident section of phase 1, so we're only gonna deal with that. I think it was 100 and something houses total, but they're irrelevant here. Okay, so now you get the 06 to 09, that's the links. Again, you get tax money, but you don't get much in the form of kids, school kids. Here's the 3 that at least came up with a little more. Cannon Ridge, townhome, Cumberland Village, phase 1, single family, and Twin Oaks. I had to go back and try to pick out some dwellings that are plans that were keyed to single family residences. And that's why we've got a couple of old ones in here, Hazelbrook Hills and Twin Oaks. Cambridge Crossing has 36 more to go, but don't expect much. And here's the one with only 40 units left, but it should have some impact. Okay. So now we put it all together and try to see what's going on. Basically, here are the results. Scenario 1 holds Burris at the current level. Now remember, Burris, if we go back to table 1, Burris has been dropping for the last decade or so, but they're dampening. The drop is dampening down. So my best guess is it's not going to continue to go down. It's going to level out and plateau like it did earlier. Yes.
Just wanted to point out that the scenarios are listed kind of 1 through 6, and at least based on other reports that I've seen you do in the past, scenario 1 is the most likely scenario.
Yes.
Correct. And it goes down from there.
Yeah, but at least the 3 that I point out, 4, because 2 of them are tied for 3rd. I don't like to read that myself, but I couldn't help it. Scenario 2. Okay, wait a minute. Here's the results. Most of the decline at the elementary schools in the first 5 years, I expected to go down about 100. Middle school about 60. High school will increase a bit, and I haven't looked into why this big bump and then this big drop occurred. But it's in the age structure, so when I was sitting in there, I just didn't have time to look at it. Overall, about 150 down, which that's not too bad.
Over the 10-year period.
Yes, and that's 5%. So that's it's actually fairly good. And with potential, let's go to the next one. What happens if fertility keeps dropping? And so this one, we took a mild drop to 218 a year from 230, so that's only 12. But over 10 years, it's 120. So now we expect, and that's why this kicks in, because this is where this drop shows up. It shows up in the last 5 years. So instead of 30-something, now we get 80, a drop of almost 200. These don't change because none of these kids with these birth rates are going to get into middle school by the time the 10-year period is over. So we put in shading the difference between the two scenarios. Should have shaded the bottom. That's if you drop 12, then you're going to get about a 200 drop in students. Still not too bad, but not as nice a scenario. Okay, the next one. 3, suppose we kick bursts up a notch, like 12, just like we took it down a notch. So instead of 100, now it's only 58 instead of, I think it was, what, 150?
152.
Scenario 1 has 150, so now it's less than 100. So if the echo boom shows up and doesn't migrate out, this is possible. So if I'm wrong on my most likely, we can look at these and see sort of what's going on in births. Unfortunately, we have the 2018 preliminary and the births were 224, did not go up, went down. But I don't take 1 year. 1 year is ridiculous, so we're just going to wait and look at 4 years or 5 to try to get a trend here going on for some better estimate. Okay. I pushed this one out so that you can see what would it take to turn enrollment around in births. In terms, I kicked 24 births in here, 254, which is where it was at one time earlier. Now you get an enrollment, a drop of about 70 and then an increase of about 70, so no difference. Enrollment stable. Nothing changed here, but overall it's a drop of nothing, 34. I would be extremely happy with that. That requires births to go up to 2.5. They started at 290, remember, and now at 230. So this means they've got to jump 20. It's possible. It would be more possible if the other two echo cohorts were positive. Okay, let's go to 5. This is, I take my scenario 1 and I add housing impacts to it. The distribution in Gettysburg School District on new home students who come in to new homes is 46 at the elementary, 24, I believe it's 24 again, at the middle school, and 30% at the high school. So unlike births where they all come in at K and echo through the system, so to speak, in age, in housing they come in at different levels, and so you see their effect decrease in 5 years' time. At high school they're gone. But let's take a look at 25A. This is the number of kids. If you added 25 homes per year above the 75, that is, you're building at a rate of 100 a year. And you got 508 sitting there already, and you can't count to 2,000, so we allow no fudges. There's got to be homes that aren't for the elderly or older population. So what I did was took 40. We had 39 left in Misty Ridge. I took 40 homes with a 72 student housing ratio. Put them in year 2 and year 3. Took 25 homes total. So that meant 3, 6. It turns out you get if you get 24 homes and multiply it by 0.09, which is what Elaine's got, then you get 1 kid. And if you take 24 and you allow it like the single family residence was at 41, you get 5. So each year, you're gonna get 6 kids coming in from this, beyond Mr. Ridge. This is the Mr. Ridge type of thing, 9 at the elementary, actually, it's 6, yeah. The total is 20, and these are kicking in 9, 5, and 6, so that's 15 and 20. 20 new kids coming in the first, in Y2 and Y3. I have nobody coming in 19, because I didn't think they were gonna ratchet it up nearly enough by any means, and they may not, period. Anyway, this is how we allocate it with that distribution I told you. We're gonna bring in 80 kids. If you were to get 250 new homes above the baseline. They'll be distributed like that. Now, they're just these numbers. What I try to do is allocate them as evenly as possible, and so we get them pretty much evenly distributed here. That's just my placing them in a cell. But it has to add to these when it's over, and it has to be non-repeating in the sense that you don't bias something up real bad. Okay, so when we get the housing in here, well, let's go back, you know. That's tech prep. 80 kids, interestingly enough, you can still get 100 decline in the elementaries. Now you do get differences at the middle and high school. And it, total enrollment down by 50. So were you to put scenario 4 in with it, for 3, I mean, where you increase bursts instead of holding constant, you know you're gonna probably overcome that. If you got the big bump in bursts, you're gonna overcome it a lot. So housing could potentially have a nice impact, but it has to have a considerably high volume beyond where it is today. Okay, I don't think we're gonna talk about scenario 6. I think you'd probably prefer to look into the elementaries. Scenario 6 is tech prep. And what I had to do, what doesn't, if you want me to, I'm glad to do it. I have no problem with that.
I think you could probably jump to the elementaries.
Yeah.
The key to think about tech prep, and this is all I'll say about it, is that it is increasing and the staying of those students is increasing. They're now up to 80-something% graduating out of the tech program, career program. And they're still increasing and teeny bit out of Cumberland. Out of Gettysburg. Okay, we've got 3 outcomes here. We take scenario 1 is the main one, and we look at it as we broke it down. So I told you the 5 steps we have to use to make the breakage. We have to know where the births are occurring. We have to know how many of them in Strabane are going to Conewago, I guess it is. How many in Mount Joy are going to Littlestown, and we only have 1 year of data for that. Littlestown and Conewago was good enough to give us the students by municipality, so we can go back and actually cut them out, and that's what we did. Then we still got a 73 ratio coming in, so basically what I find here is that a drop of 50 in the first 5 years, 30 in the next, and so this is the harshest one, and almost 90 total. So I expect Franklin will drop by over 80 students. Okay, next round. James Getty, most of the drop is in the first 5 years, then only 8, so 63 from 427 to 364. Okay, Lincoln. Lincoln's the only one that doesn't downturn a bit. It's only 1, so it's basically 0 in the first 5 years, but holding its own. Growth of 10 in the second 5 years. So I looked at the August numbers, and I think it's over by 14 or 15, and this one in Getty's and under by, my estimate's under by 9 or so in Franklin. It's a forecast. So if I hit it perfectly, I'd be lying to you. It wouldn't be a forecast. Okay, so that's basically the gist of it. Thanks. Now I want to, I mentioned Daryl Crum and Michelle Long and Lawson, but I didn't mention this guy right here. Tom Fortnum, I could not have done it without him. He bugged me quite a bit over the time period, but every time I asked for something, he would go find it or get a person who could find it. So just a remarkable set of data that we're able to look at, and a great deal of that is owed to Tom here. There was no no municipality that didn't cooperate. It's just that several of them didn't have anything going on, and some of them didn't keep their records in a way that I could go back 10 years and get them. So we relied a great deal on Adams County, which is a new for me, and they're pretty good. Putting them together with Michelle Long's stuff allowed us to sort out some errors that the county had. They gave one permit for 90 homes once because it was viewed as commercial enterprise, but once we sorted that out, they were very, very close in numbers. So that's the gist, I guess, and maybe more.
So could a somewhat accurate
Okay, you can
summary for the layperson be that over the next 10
Yeah.
years, we'll see a slight decrease in total enrollment in the district, with Lincoln Elementaries remaining the most stable, with slight decreases at Gettys and Franklin?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Only one question about Hispanic women?
I thought I was gonna work.
It was a good question, and it was a very good question.
Yeah.
Nobody else wants to ask anything?
You're very thorough, it's 101 pages, so very thorough. I've been through it previously, and even when I read about demographics, nationally, that's matching up. It is a very, very thorough job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this document will be very important for the boards, future boards moving forward, and any projects that we would have to do. Right now, it sounds like we're pretty well set.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you for your meticulous work. This is probably the most detailed demographic study I've seen since
Yeah, I think
I've
that,
been in this district.
I think the impressive thing is that over the course of 20 years, if you look at all the districts in the state, they're probably heavy more towards the western part of the state, because that's where,
My work, you mean?
yeah,
Done to at State College, Solonco, east of here,
yeah.
Carlisle,
But
which
just
isn't
the,
very far. Most of them are out west, southwest.
the accuracy is unbelievable looking out years. It's just,
What surprised me is that it hasn't dropped, doesn't drop much from 1 to 5 to 10 years, and that's not generally the case. Usually the further out you get, the worse it gets. But I'm only going 10 years, so that's the good news.
thanks very much.
Again, thank you, Dr. Susan. Have a safe trip back.
I will.
All right, be careful out there.
Come a little slower this time if somebody doesn't push me all the way.
Okay. All right. Reminder that the next board meeting is on December 3rd. First, you'll have a reorganizational meeting, and that'll be followed by a regular board meeting. Ken, you had something you wanted to share with the board?
Yeah, actually, and I want to do it publicly and not behind the scenes. It relates to the December 3rd board meeting reorganization. And I was looking for some clarification from our solicitor or from the board members that may or may not have the knowledge. Unfortunately, I, if it was my mistake, a year ago booked an out-of-the-country trip on December 3rd on a critical, what I see to be a critical evening for not only the district, but this board. So I asked Mr. McQuaid, and I don't know if he knows the answer, whether or not, I know we've entertained interviews via phone. Is that acceptable in this particular situation as a board member?
Well, I don't have a short answer. I'll give you the lawyer answer. The issue, the main issue when you're dealing with someone who attends remotely is the Sunshine Act. There's a case, a Commonwealth Court case, the Milk Marketing Board, that determined that a person could attend by telephone and be in compliance with the Sunshine Act. The problem is, how do you do that? And the way to do that is to develop a good policy that addresses all the issues, like what does it mean to participate remotely? Is it by speakerphone? Is it by some visual where people can see you, and the exhibits that might be floating around in the meeting, etc. This board does not have such a policy as far as I can recall. I mean, my recollection might not be accurate, but I don't think we have that. Having said that, I think this board can certainly adopt one in the future, and that would be through the normal course, through the committee, and bring it up and for consideration by the entire board. But for this upcoming meeting, the board, I think, could adopt an ad hoc policy and allow people to participate remotely if it chose to do so. You'd have to lay down some ground rules as to how that would work.
But would that be this board, or would that be the new board coming in?
When you adopt policy, you adopt it for the institution, and people can come and go, but the institution is here. So if you would adopt a policy prior to the next meeting, I think that could be in effect at the next meeting.
I'll cut to the chase. There are critical things, and I'm not. There are two central issues here for me. One is that the new board, and it's poor timing on my part. So I own that. Obviously, I didn't foresee this a year ago. One is this discussion, and this is why I went public, is whether or not the new board is going to adopt an appointment for the 9th member, or whether or not the new board is going to go back into the interview stage. So for me, that's critical, especially when we're already at 8. Now we're at 7. So a 4-3 vote, or whatever math you want to use, sets some standard. So obviously I own that. And the other thing is, I'm not saying that I'm nominated or would be nominated. Certainly, I don't want to take that off the table either going into the December 3rd meeting for any position. Now, it is my understanding that I don't have to be present, or a member does not have to be present if a nomination goes to the floor. It can still go to a vote.
That's correct. You don't have to be here to be elected to a position.
Okay.
The question is whether, if you're not physically present, whether you can have a vote that would be counted.
If current board policy is silent on an issue, is there anything to violate, or can the board simply give approval for a board member to attend?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's certainly not the best way to, operate the business, but since this has come up kind of 11th hour, for this one time, certainly the board can, I think, adopt
Resolution.
ad hoc policy.
But Bob, that's exactly why when I opened, I could have easily talked to board members individually I know Gettysburg kind of sitting here, I'm using a common sense approach, trying to do it the right way. Unless somebody doesn't know my voice on the phone, calling in on a particular issue, I'm having trouble.
No,
We've actually interviewed people for board positions
And-
via the phone.
And I'm saying that if the board this evening were to adopt an ad hoc policy allowing for that, then I'm saying that I think that could be done.
As a policy committee chair, I would feel very comfortable proposing an ad hoc policy. In my 10 years as a superintendent in 2 different districts, on several occasions, and I don't know if we had a specific policy on that or not, we did by speakerphone. As long as that board member was present on speakerphone to hear all the deliberations, then that person was eligible to vote. So my ad hoc proposal would be that we do form a ad hoc policy for a distance board member to vote, and that the only caveat would be that that person, Kenny in this case, would be present for the entire deliberation before making a vote.
Is that a motion, Al?
Is that a motion? Is that okay, Bob? Is a motion?
You say it's a
You
motion.
mean present on the phone right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so I make that motion.
I would second that motion.
Mrs. Collins, did you get the motion?
Yeah, in essence, it's to allow participation by speakerphone.
And I appreciate it, and it would not be an issue if it wasn't a reorganization meeting with the new members coming in. And the significance is the most driving significant thing is there is a decision to make on a 9th member and how the board's going to proceed. And I wanted to be a part of that, and unfortunately, I made plans a year ago.
And just by way of example, Upper Adams School District adopted such a policy, and they've already had participation by speakerphone at their, at least one of their public sessions.
Is there any, we had a motion, it was seconded, is there any other questions or discussion from any board members before we vote?
Is there a timeline on the ad hoc policy, like begins and ends, or is it just a standing policy?
Well, I would think it should be a standing policy until the policy committee could address the particulars of such a policy.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Jim? Sylvan?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
I vote yes. So we now have an ad hoc policy that allows a board member to phone in.
And if any board member is going to phone in for, because this applies to all board members, so you might not be the only one who needs to do this. If any board member wants to do that for the reorganization meeting or the regular meeting, or obviously for both, and that board member is either newly elected or re-elected, that person's going to have to be sworn in first. So I would suggest arranging to be sworn in before being unavailable. Because you won't, I don't think, I wouldn't want to have the swearing in over the phone.
And swearing-ins can occur prior to that December 3rd meeting, right?
Yes.
So I thought it could be any time. It can be done out here at the administration office.
Yeah, I think, I'd have to check with the election board
Right.
when they're certified. I think you have to be certified first and then get sworn.
Correct. And that's after the votes are official.
Yeah, I don't know when that
I
certification.
think I got a date from the election board. It's the 21st, I think. It's this week.
And I don't think, Kenny, Kenny's a holdover.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
he doesn't need to be sworn in.
There's no.
Al would be one that is
Right.
re-elected.
Okay.
And then the others are new. There's only 3 that do not have to be
But
sworn
if
in.
any of the new board members, because it would
Yeah,
apply to them.
right,
too.
it applies to them.
You know, okay.
The only comment I will make from that is, I think as we move forward, be careful with that policy, because all of a sudden, you might be sitting here with only 2 members and the rest are all calling in because something came up. I think I think we really, when the new board gets on board, you need to look at the policy, whether or not that's something you want to continue to pursue. I know they do it at the IU, but those board members are coming from very long distances, so they get to Skype in,
I think there,
and I don't know what their policy
I
is.
think there are plenty of sample policies that we
Right.
can use the policy committee to keep
Right.
it tight, so we should be good.
Right.
Hey, Carlos, this really.
Right, that's right, this is a circumstance, right.
With the exception of, it's unfortunate, it's a reorganization meeting.
That's my only
Just
concern.
means you have to.
You have to bring a gift back for all of us.
That's exactly right.
I'm just hoping I have a cell phone.
Yeah. Right, does anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
I actually have a question, just a curiosity I don't recall from the last 2 years. So at the reorganization meeting, we will elect our officers. Is there a policy that governs the order in which we elect officers?
Yeah.
Yes. President's first.
Oh, president is first.
There'll be an acting no, go ahead, let you explain it, you're better.
No, you know, there's a president of the meeting, and then you're president, and then you're vice president.
All right, thank you.
There, just to clarify, there will be a letter sent to all 8 new elected members at least 5 days prior, and that letter will list the agenda in its order.
Yes, Sylvan, something?
I just want to take this opportunity for a shout out to say thank you very much to all the board members and to Dr. Heron for his assistance since my arrival here in end of January. I'd like to say a debt of gratitude to Jane because she has assisted me in not only learning about what goes on in a board, which I had a pretty good idea, but some personal issues that she's helped me get through. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to Jane.
Anything else? Before I adjourn, just again, let the board know that as soon as we're done with this meeting, there are 2 of the new board members present in the audience, and they are going, I invited them here tonight so that we can meet and greet, and we're gonna go over some things with them a little bit, and what to anticipate when they come on December 3rd. Andrew Robinson is going to also have a short little presentation, and they'll be getting their pictures taken, those kinds of things. We're gonna try to take care of some of the in-house stuff so that when they come in, they don't have to worry about so much of that after the meeting. So after we adjourn here, you can just stick around for a while. Appreciate you staying as long as you have tonight and coming out. The other 2 would have been here, but they had a prior commitment. I think they had a football banquet, a midget football banquet was tonight. So before I adjourn, I personally want to thank all of you, the 8 of you. It's been a privilege and an honor to work with you and to be your president the last 2 years. After 45 years, I think it's time to let others take over. So,
Before we adjourn,
yes.
I know it's been a long night for us. We've been here since 6, but I can't help myself. I've got to say thank you to those of you who are leading this board. Alice, I'm starting with you. You've received thousands of votes in this election, and I thank you for your dedication to this school district. Jim, I look at you. You brought a level of civility to this board that I always feel indebted to. I look at you, who just retired, and your dedication to our school district led you to come onto this board right after retirement. Thank you. Sylvan, a fairly recent resident of Gettysburg with a long history of serving school districts in New Jersey. You came to us, and I thank you. And Carlos, our president, you led for 2 years most unselfishly, and for that, I am indebted to you.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Mike.
I think the thing that has been most impressive to me, not just through 18 months on this board, but it's 5 years and plus employment prior to that, is the quality of people on this board and in this school district, the employees and staff who sincerely keep the children of this school district as their central focus. And it's allowed us as a board, and it's allowed our school district from the administration down to really make good decisions that are in the best interest of our students. And for that, I thank all of you.
For sure.